Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bible reading plan. We're in the fourth and final chapter of Colossians today. And I love when in verse 5, Paul is ending it out. These are the final greetings of Paul and instructions. And he says in verse 5, walk in wisdom towards outsiders, making the best use of time. Let your speech also always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. So he's talking about talking to people and speaking with people with graciousness, but Paul is a man who shows that he can't do this alone. He can't do ministry alone. And Paul, or he doesn't want to, it's not good for him to. And Paul, is in prison, and he, in this final chapter, just is saying, hey, I want you to get this letter out and get this word to all of my friends who have joined me in ministry. And I was talking with a guy before I graduated college. I was in the line, and I got to strike up a conversation with him, ask him if he was a Christian, if he went to church or not. And he said, I believe in God, but I don't go to church. I don't believe not going to church is a sin. And I was thinking, I don't think the act of not being at church is necessarily a sin, but I just don't know how a person would survive without going to church, right? How does your spirit survive without it being built up by other believers, by being surrounded by those who can build you up, encourage you, and pray for you? It's not, maybe not a sin to not be at church, but it's a necessity to be around believers, to be in the church, to be in that community, or your spirit might get drained. And Paul knew that. And we're just going to go through Paul's friend list right here. If you open up your phone and you look in your contact list, that's what Paul is doing today. And we see, we'll just go through these real quick. Tychicus will tell you all about my activities. He's a beloved brother. He's not just a friend, he's a brother. Can someone say this about you? That you're a beloved brother, a faithful minister, and a fellow servant in the Lord. Is that how people say you're a friend? Well, we think that Tychicus is the one who delivered the letter of Colossians and the letter of Ephesians. This is a big guy. And then he talks about Onesimus, and if we read Philemon, Onesimus is the runaway slave who is now turned into a really close friend of Paul. So Onesimus might not fit in like everybody else, or he might be different, or he might come from a past that's different. But now Onesimus is a beloved brother of God. Do you befriend those people who have pasts that might not be perfect? It's something to think about. We talk about Aristarchus. My fellow prisoner greets you. And we remember Aristarchus from, you remember our Acts series in Acts 19. They're in Ephesus, and a crowd, a riot breaks out, and Aristarchus is seized, it says. This is a guy who goes through hard times with Paul. Do you have a friend who goes through hard times with you? Or are you a friend who goes through hard times with other people as well? And he goes on, and he talks about Mark, the cousin of Barnabas. He says, welcome him. This is a big turnaround. If you remember in Acts, Paul had kind of a falling out with Barnabas over Mark. He did not want Mark to come on the mission journey with him because Mark had left him in the first mission journey. And now we see that they've made amends, they've reconciled, and now they're beloved brothers. He wants to encourage Mark. Oops, there goes my tripod. He wants to encourage Mark through his letter here. And then we see a man named Jesus, who they call Justus, and it says he's a comfort to him. And I know a lot of friends, a lot of people who are the type of person to, in their friendships, try to take up all of the light, try to be the center of attention, and you just come away drained from them. I certainly have been that person too, and Paul finds value in a person who comforts you when they're around you, a friend who brings you, fills you up instead of takes from you and draws energy away from you. He comforts them. And I love this. He says Epaphras. He says always struggling on your behalf in his prayers. He's not just praying for them. He's struggling. He's fighting. He's wrestling, is what another translation says, through these prayers, praying for them. And I just wonder if you have that person struggling, wrestling through praying for you. And do you do that for your friends? Do you wrestle in prayer for them on their behalf so they may stand firm in the day of trial? And then we see other people. We see Luke, the beloved physician, the author of Luke and the author of Acts. This is the guy who is all over Paul's missionary journeys. up until the very end. And then we see Archippus and Nympha, and we see a guy named Demas finally. And Demas is in 2 Timothy when Paul says he has deserted me because he loved the world. And that's a danger that we have. We could be lovers of the world and thus desert our community and desert our church, desert our people. And when we were supposed to be friends with them, to strengthen them, to comfort them, to build them up, to struggle in prayer for them, we love the world and we fall away and we leave them. And we might all know a friend who we feel like has betrayed us, who has left us for the love of the world. But everyone, just take this and look at Paul's friendships. Realize you need friends around you. Seek that out in the church, in Christ's body, and be the friend that Paul is attracted to, that Paul adores and he builds up. But thank you for joining me in Colossians chapter 4, the final book. I hope to see you tomorrow at 1 Thessalonians. Bye.